Okay, so you're a trained graphic designer, but somehow you got involved in chalk art, right? Can you tell us the story?
Absolutely. So in this winter of 2007, I graduated from the University of North Texas. I found myself with all right. I found myself with a free summer in 2008, and all I knew was that I didn't want to waste it. I tentatively had plans for that fall to get a job and had something lined up, so I had this free summer, and I knew that I just didn't want to get worse, like at what I had learned to do in college. So a company in New York just emailed me randomly and said, hey, we have a summer internship program, would love to have you. And so I thought, New York, I've never, ever considered that. But I said, sure. So I took the plunge, and I had a friend that moved there at the same time. And she said, you can live in my room, we can do this together. So I was like, cool. So my internship was at this magazine, Good Housekeeping, and if you haven't heard of it, I know your mothers or your wives maybe have. And so
I've looked at it a couple times.
Okay. So this is my summer internship in New York City. After that, I actually got my first job unexpectedly at this agency called SpotCo, and they design the majority of the Broadway show posters. So really fun stuff. This is the kind of work that they do. It was the best first job for me ever, just because one week we'd be working on like a Roaring '20s Broadway show, the next was like a '70s revival, really funky. So it was really cool to work in all these different styles. And this is just some of the work that I got to do that really never saw the light of day. I mean, that one, these are just comps. Again, real typography heavy, something I've always been drawn to over the years and in school. And this was the first time that I got to see my work in Times Square. I ran
awesome.
like after work there, and I had some tourists take my photos so I could send it to my mom. It was great. And then, okay, so transitioning a little bit. I guess this is November 7th, 2009. I got this Facebook invite, and it was from two friends who were hosting a housewarming party. They had just moved to this awesome new loft space in Brooklyn, and they said, everyone come over, we're going to have a big party. The theme is Great Gatsby, and you can't spend money on your outfit. You have to like thrift it or make it. You know, it was like very Brooklyn. And so I came over, and I walked in, and they had a big wall painted in this like black chalkboard paint, and they had quotes all over it, and I was like, that's super cool. And this was actually, I think, a little before Pinterest, and this was before I had never seen a wall like painted as a chalkboard, and I was like, that's a thing? That's awesome. And so my friend turned to me and she was like, you're artsy, right? Like, can you just draw something? I was like, and so I just turned to my friend and I was like,
this is like right before the party started or something?
Yeah, I was as people were coming, and so I put on my little like outfit that I made, and she said, can you just draw something? I said, well, I turned to my friend, like, what do we do? And so I said, well, let's just draw the word Brooklyn, and it'll be kind of small in this art shape. And like, I look at this now and I think, it is not very good, but I remember a friend came up to us after we had finished this, and he said, that's so cool, you just did that? Like, will you take my photo in front of it? And I was like, really? It's not that great. And then the next person came up and said, can you take my photo in front of it? Can you take my photo in front of it? And then, we all went home and uploaded our photos to Facebook. So we made this, album of kind of just us celebrating. And so the next time they had a party, they actually invited me over. The next party was like Alice in Wonderland themed, so I just went over the day of and just started doing it, like no sketches.
That's a little more intricate than the first one.
Yeah, I think I took a leap. I was like, you know what? At the time, I was on the computer a lot at my day job, and I'm not a computer hater. I really like working with my hands, and so I thought, this is the perfect outlet. The next one was this sorority-themed party. Again, no sketches beforehand. It was so fun. I just would plug in my music and have a cup of coffee and go for it. This was our final one that year, which was like a Mad Men holiday soiree. And just here's some photos from it. I just thought my friends looked really good. Like they really looked the part.
So I'm picking up that your community does a lot of themed parties.
Yeah, I know, it's like super cheesy. But so this is what we did. We would just go home and upload these to Facebook, and it kind of just became a thing, kind of based off of community and celebration. And at the time, I had a full-time job working for a woman named Louise Fili, who's well known for her packaging and beautiful typography. So I was doing, I had my full-time job, and then I would just do this occasionally for the parties. Then my friend asked me to do a big piece in his loft space, and I was like, cool. And so I went over one Saturday and did this one. This is what it ended up looking like. I just kept doing more personal pieces. This one I just did in my bedroom. This was for a wedding reception. I got my very first commission from a friend of a friend who saw the photos on Facebook and said, we have a gallery in Soho, a furniture gallery, and we'd love to hire you to do a piece. So I did this after work one day. And here's another shot. And then my next commission was from Google. Somebody
went from Great Gatsby to
to Great Google.
Yeah, great.
And it was again someone who saw the photos on Facebook from a friend and just said, "This is so cool that you guys are having these parties and it just looks really fun. I'd love to hire you to do something to welcome our staff into this new building that we're building." And so. Shortly after that, it was my first editorial commission from Rachel Ray magazine, Every Day with Rachel Ray. And so that just blew my mind that my grandma in Texas could pick up a magazine and see my work. And here's an installation at the Ace Hotel in New York that was that spring as well. So it just kind of came quickly. And then I got to do this collaboration with Ralph Lauren for their flagship store windows in New York City, which was a blast. And so I'll just kind of go through a couple of those. I think that's in a nutshell how I came to do what I'm doing.
But a big part of this was your community that you just did it randomly one night and then your community really affirmed what you were doing, right?
Absolutely. So our friend Gabe yesterday tweeted this quote and I totally just yanked it and put it up here, but this resonated with me. It says, "If you want to go faster, go alone, and if you want to go farther, go together." This amazing, just beautiful, African proverb. And so I really think I can say that if it weren't for, my friends, speaking this into me, I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing. It really changed everything. I learned a couple of months ago from my friend Caleb that the root of the word encourage literally means to put courage inside of someone. And I just thought, that's exactly what my community has done. I feel like they saw something special. They knew of my love for typography, of lettering, but they truly saw something and then spoke it out. And I think that made all the difference. And so I think I've learned from them to, if I notice something special or unique in someone, to speak it out, because I think our words hold a lot of power.
And there's two parts to that. One is that you have to listen to your community related to things that you're really great at, right? When they affirm that, you have to listen to it. And then secondly, part of that is that our responsibility in community is to see the gifts and strengths in other people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all of us here are supporters of community. We all know the power of that. I don't think there's anyone that doubts that. But this experience really solidified for me the idea of getting behind other people's passions and dreams. And the question was raised at a conference that I went to last year. It was, okay, because you have power, or replace power with gifts, abilities, skills, time, resources, whatever, who then in turn is flourishing? And I just thought, I was personally challenged thinking, my friends, they might not have a ton of resources or anything, but they have a lot of love to give and a lot of support and a lot of encouragement to put behind me. And I'm thinking, who and what can I put my weight behind and my gifts and my talents? And so, community has played a huge part in that.
That's a great challenge. Now you've had great success. You mentioned the Ralph Lauren thing, but there's two things that have been platformed as a higher success rate. Can you share how those things came about?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I realized that I forgot a couple of slides.
Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna go.
Yeah.
Talking about kind of community, and that's where it started. For the holiday season a couple years ago, West Dome reached out to me, and we did, I did every spread in their catalog for the holidays, and it was really fun. And we did these in-store signage all over the country. But the only we just did it how we always did it, and my friends started going to their local West Elms and taking their photos like in front of these big installations, and then we made a Facebook album out of it, and so it was just something that continued to be like a community thing. My friends and family just celebrating in front of these pieces, which I thought was really fun. But as far as the 2 pieces that I'm super proud of,
most proud of, yeah.
Okay, it took me some time, but I would have to say this cover of Time Magazine, which was last fall, was definitely
I would be kind of proud. It took you some of doing a chalk piece that was on the Time of cover.
I was like, that's pretty cool. And the thing is that I was telling you the story of that. I was on vacation in Dallas visiting my boyfriend at the time, and they came to me with this request, and my mind was just blown. And I was like, but I'm not in my studio, I don't have anything. And he was like, we gotta make this happen, you know? And so we went out to Home Depot and just bought a plywood board and painted it with chalkboard paint. And I just did it in the garage, and then we took it to another friend who photographed it for me, and then we sent it in. And they never knew that that was sort of the story behind it. And so, again, very grassroots, but in that particular instance, community, again, played a huge part. And here it is actually this was in the Atlanta airport. I saw it
That's cool.
in real life. The second thing was this cover of O magazine that was, I guess it was a couple of years ago, last year, early. And I told you this kind of funny story. Again, everything's just like so random and grassroots, but I got this call, this was sort of at the time when I was so stressed out because I was working my full-time job and doing chalk on the side, and this lady called me from Oprah, and she's like, all I heard was blah, 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 because I was so stressed out, and I just didn't have a good work-life balance. I think it was just, I'd say it was sort of an unhealthy season. I think I was just beat down, so I couldn't even hear the opportunity that was being presented, and I just I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of busy, and the lady just stopped me, and she's like, Dana, did you hear what I said? You know, like, I want you to draw the cover of Oprah magazine, like all the headlines and everything, and Oprah's gonna stand in front of it and pretend like she did it, you know? And I was like, okay, let's talk. And so that was definitely a huge thing. I actually did the installation the day that I finished my full-time job. I took a crosstown bus and I worked into the night on this, and it was so fast-paced that there was no sketch. She just said, okay, here's what it has to say, like, go for it, and we'll be back in the morning. And I'm thinking, I could totally fail at this, you know, but I felt like, okay, you know what, I've been doing this for like a year and a half in secret, nobody really knowing about it. I feel kind of prepared. I feel like I know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna give it my best shot. And they came back the next morning and actually loved it, and it turned into the cover. And then I got to party with Oprah. Just kidding. Working with Oprah, I guess it was just such a good experience that we ended up doing this double-page spread in the inside of that, and then she asked me to do all art, not she, they, asked me to do the artwork and signage for her conference last year in LA, and I got to make this cool photo wall, again, kind of taking it back where it started, with people celebrating together with their friends in front of my work. And then I just slipped in an extra one because it's brand new. So I just got to create these books, kids' books from Penguin Books. They created a whole new, I guess, division of books called Penguin Puff and Chalk, based off of my work, which I was so honored about. And so I created these pretty, big size, large size, and then photographed them, and that became these covers. So I just loved that, like a generation of kids could grow up, reading their favorite stories with this as the artwork. So I'm super honored.
Those are awesome, yes. And Dana is a very humble person. So even like getting her to come here, convincing her that she should share that she has a voice was like a whole big process. So this is encouraging for you guys to see all this. Okay, the next question is, so chalk has a timeline. Is that frustrating as an artist, or what do you think about that?
I am not frustrated by that at all. I think what I like about it is the ephemeral nature of chalk, and I think we use it to kind of scribble or doodle. Like, we all have memories of it as a child, whether on the sidewalk or on, like, in the schoolroom. But it's such a humble and simple medium that we don't think of something great or grand to come from it. And so I think that's sort of the surprise of it. And also, like I said, everybody has a memory of chalk. So there's this element of nostalgia that everyone can relate to. Everyone has a memory. But I just have a couple like kind of process videos of what I do. It's so easy to work with. I love that. There are layers to every piece. You know, it's not just a paint where it's just like you draw it with pencil and then paint over it. But it's about the whole process. I feel like if people knew how much of my like spit is like in each one of each one of these, they would just think it's so gross. Wow. So this is what those pictures just turned into. They actually sealed this one with like a.
Hang on, can you go back and see the before and after again? Because I think that was.
Yeah, it was just empty before, and then I spent 3 full days on this. I'll never do that again. But they sealed. You can kind of see the glare on there. I don't love it, so I would prefer it honestly be
natural
just natural and temporary. So like for this event at the Ace Hotel, we got to collaborate with this guy, Martin Greenfield, who's an amazing suit maker. He like has dressed presidents, all that, and he's a Holocaust survivor who came over and started this business in Brooklyn. And this piece that I did for the collaboration, it was literally only up for like a day. And it took me a whole day to make, but it was such an honor, I think, to make that for them. I didn't mind. And then this was in the video earlier. I did that last year, and actually just got back from Tokyo a couple weeks ago, and I went to the store, and it was gone. Like, they erased it. And I was like, oh, I thought that I wouldn't care that much, but I was like, I am hurting. And so I like to say, like, oh, I love it, that it's so ephemeral, but then it does sting like a little bit, but then I'm like, no, I have to accept it.
That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so as you've been pursuing your passion, you've found really great success. How do you prioritize time for your own creativity? So like this is, I think a lot of people, as you start to pursue your passion, then all of a sudden it becomes like a job.
Yeah.
And how do you keep kind of the creative bent to what you're doing and keep excited about it as you're pursuing this?
Okay, good question. I think this is an area, like I said, I didn't do so well in at first. I think I learned by trial and error. So as like these jobs picked up as I had my full-time job, I felt like in some ways I had good boundaries where I actually said, okay, I'm only going to do one job per month because I still want to be a good employee. I still want to be present. I don't want to be so tired that I can't perform my job faithfully and well. And so I definitely kept that for several months, but it was harder and harder as more opportunities came my way. And so I think it was in that season that I didn't balance everything so well. Of course, there were definitely friendships that suffered from that, relationships that I had to later go back and apologize for and say, I didn't do the best job. And so from there, then on out, trying to, work from a place of rest, meaning, you have your off days to recharge and to rest, and then go out into the world and spend that energy and those resources instead of barreling through the week to crash and burn on the weekend and then start it all over. I think that's been a change in priority for me that's really worked. So
that's something you've had to like prioritize and schedule around and change your whole mindset towards it?
So with that, I realized last December that I hadn't done personal work in a year and a half. And I was thinking, this started out as just something between my friends and I. And yet, I think it in some ways reached that point where I was like, I didn't realize I was just churning out stuff. I mean, of course my heart was in it, and of course I put a lot of love into these things. But last December, I finally did my first personal piece in a year and a half, which was so life-giving for me. I did this poster, which was quite large, of this phrase, live a quiet life and work with your hands. And I was just so thankful to get back to that and to my clients and friends and everyone who had supported me that year. And so I printed these, and then through the studio, we sold them in December, and 100% of the proceeds went to 4 amazing nonprofits. And I didn't even think that anyone would care, but we were able to raise about $9,000 from just a poster like this. And so I thought, okay, I see that personal work is very important to be inspired to, again, invest in other people. I really started to prioritize and do more personal work, and also like we were talking about putting our weight behind other people. This was a passion project of my friend in Texas who was going to open up a restaurant, and he's a designer. So here's that empty space. We 3 of us got together over 4 days and created. Basically helped his vision come to life. He just wanted it to be a beautiful space where people could come together, have sort of like a chef-driven cuisine, which was they didn't have anything like that in this town of Abilene just yet. And so here's us kind of working together. And this was so fun for me because we didn't have any art directors. And it's like we were putting our weight behind our friend Ryan. And this is what we came up with from that empty space, turned it into this, beautiful restaurant that people can just have good food, good conversation. Abilene, I can buy. And so, yeah, these are just sort of the menu that we all designed, and it's the 3 of us. And this was really good for my soul. And since then, I've just started doing these are from my Instagram feed. I've just been doing little paintings and things I'm really inspired by. I went to the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville, and I was just super inspired by a lot of the patterns and prints that I saw. So this is what I'm doing, hopefully once a week now. I just finger painted this card. I made a sun print. I know these are random, but and I could take on pro bono projects like this benefited Hamilton Wood Type Museum. It's a letterpress coaster that came in a set. Here's just like a tote bag that I did with some friends, a skateboard that we auctioned off for charity. Again, I didn't make time for those things before, but I've found that what I'm doing in my personal work is helping me be so much more inspired in my professional work and challenge myself to do different things.
That's great. So if you go on Pinterest today, you would find all kinds of chalk art. And I think obviously you're the pioneer in this space of recent years. So how does that make you feel, like where people are taking this form that you have kind of driven and replicating it endlessly? How does that make you feel? How do you deal with that? Let me say one more thing, because I think a lot of the people in the room are creating things that haven't been done before, right? Doers of unthinkable action. And part of this is if you are going to create something that other people have not created before, the reality is you will be replicated.
Sure.
So how do you deal with that?
So I've definitely thought about this a lot. And someone asked me this question a few months ago, and I just sat down and I just typed this paragraph out as I was struggling through it, honestly. And I'd like to read that actually to you, if you don't mind, and just say that. So I started out kind of using this mental filtration system of, okay, does this job, kind of what Brad said, like, does this align, like if I was going to take on a commission or something, does this align with what I'm about and where I want to go? And if it doesn't, and if it's not part of your story and where the direction you want to take it, it's okay, and you can let that go. So starting out using this mental filtration system, discerning if jobs align with my long-term vision as a studio, is something that has served me very well. And so for us at Tanamachi Studio, it's always been about quality over quantity, as the origins of my work are very personal, and the work comes with a robust story behind it. I've always wanted to create work that has heart and soul and guts even, and that isn't the result of jumping on a bandwagon or trend. One of the challenges that we've had to face is that I'm just one person, and now we are a small studio. We are not machines and cannot possibly take on every job that comes our way. But believe me, I know that it's an honor to have more work than I know what to do with. But it does come with its unique challenges. As someone who's very particular and works to carefully curate the work that we put out, I've also had to learn the art of letting go. It's standard protocol for us to decline a job and see it in someone else's portfolio a month later. Identical style, same medium. Or you go on Pinterest or at someone's Etsy shop, they're making a complete living, off of sort of what that's not what I've created, but it's sort of become a trend,
Yep.
particularly with editorial work, and that's okay. There's enough to go around, but to me, it's the story that's most important, and that's something that I'm thankful we don't lack.
That's good. I think that's a great reminder. And the reason why I asked you to come, we ran out of time, but the reason why I asked you to come here is because, one, I think your story of community in relation to your art form is a powerful story. I think that whether you're an entrepreneur, an artist in the audience, maybe you're launching a nonprofit, who knows what you're doing, you have to have people speaking into your life that you believe what they're saying and that they believe in you, and that's played a huge role in your work. Secondly is, as you're creating your projects, you have to have an aesthetic that's going to tell a story in a powerful way. And what you said is right at the end. Like, people can replicate it, people can do whatever they want, but they don't have your story. And you have to remember that as you're creating these things. So please join me in thanking Dana and the artwork that she does.